So first, good afternoon. Let's say afternoon already. It's for Chatzos. The emphasis is that today you have to be careful. Depends where you find yourself. In Gush Etzion, for instance, you have to say Chag Sameach, right? And in Meisharim, you don't say Bechlal because Tisha B'Av, you know. So God. What do you do with Shemesh? Depends which neighborhood. Yeah. So say Oilem Yitzri, Oilem Yitzri. Listen, the truth is that we are used to, in our days, to live in a world of contradictions. Remember, Shmuel Bell in Detroit, old days by the Koilel, there was, or later on it was A&P or whatever, it was a Machon Kosher, what do they call it, the spa. Yeah? People came to do exercise. So I used to have a lot of fun watching people. They were draining around in a car for about 20 minutes to find the closest parking spot. Amazing. Patience, they got to exercise, to walk a few more cars. Yeah. You also see it in America when you have people who are vehemently for separation of church and state, and yet every dollar in the pocket says, "In God we trust." Right? People get used to it. And the guy in the restaurant, you see, is holding a Diet Coke on one hand and a 7-layer cake on the other one. It's a very interesting world that we live in, and we don't even feel how ridiculous it is. In America, there's the epitome, a Hanukkah bush. You heard of that? There's a Hanukkah and there's a bush. I don't mean the president. Yeah. Yeah. And the Israeli joke about the lady says to her husband, "Darling, I'm running out to the neighbor for 5 minutes. Just do me a favor, in 15 minutes, turn off the fire." Okay. Right? Anyway, so we are very, very confused in many of our ways. But truth is not only logically, also emotionally. Just a typical day, unfortunately, in Eretz Yisrael, let's say, the newscaster comes and says, a terrible pikua in Bnei Brak, 5 people were murdered, horrible, horrible things. He finishes the newscast and then drink Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is good. Wait a minute, you just reported on a horrible, horrible thing. People don't even go for vacation in Florida. People were killed, murdered in the middle of the day. That's the pshat that there's a bilbul, and therefore when it comes to emotion to a day like today, Yom Ha'atzmaut, it's wonderful. People come and they sit and learn. It's a great idea. Whoever thought of it, it's wonderful all over Israel. But mitzad sheni, it's also very confusing because in a way we are torn between being thankful and grateful that we're in Israel and that we can practice Yiddishkeit, we can learn Torah. There's a lot to be thankful for. When I was a child growing up in Tel Aviv, in Bnei Brak, there was literally hardly enough food to eat. First, it was not enough to eat. There was Tkufat Hatzena. I remember as a child, my mother sent me to the grocery store. And there was Moshe Fuchs, all of Shalom. very sweet man, but he says, Yeled, אני לא יכול לתת לך שום דבר. I said, למה? אין לך תלושים, didn't have coupons. The government rationed every person, per family, per person, a liter of oil a month, a kilo of flour. That's it. More, there was a black market, but it was very, very costly. But today we see Baruch Hashem, the soil is blossoming. Look at Beit Shemesh, full with construction and growth and expansion. So there's a lot to be thankful for. On the other hand, we know that our Gdolei HaTorah of the past generation and this generation tell us that while there's a lot to thank of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but this day really should not be celebrated the way most Israelis celebrate it. I'd like to really analyze it, why and how, what's the proper balance, how do we look at this day? So we'll just pay attention to a few points, and then we will try to come to some sort of clarity. The Messiah Shalom says basics first. First, we have to know what does it mean to be a Jew? What does it mean to be a Jew? How do you define Judaism? It's a very strange thing that there is a Christian who lives in Argentina, a Christian that lives in Poland, different nationalities. They happen to have the same religion. But Klal Yisrael, for some reason, is the only religion which is really a nation. And people don't know how to digest it. How do you eat it? Right? What is it? Second point is, what is Zionism? What exactly is Zionism? Is Zionism treif? Or maybe not. It's part of Yiddishkeit. Independence. Independence is good, bad, in between. Concept of independence, what does it mean? So I'd like to briefly address everyone, again, for the sake of this discussion, and try to understand a little bit on a deeper level. We're called Yehudim. Why are we called Yehudim? Why not Zvulonim? Why not Osherim, Binyaminim? If I'm from Shevet Osher, I've been insulted. Why call me Yehudi? I'm a Sheri. So we know that, on this forum, the reason why Klal Yisrael is called Yehudim, Gilas Esther and other places in Tanakh, is because there's something unique about Shevet Yehuda. Yaakov Avinu was unique, like every one of the Ahavas. When B'Dav Shmonesre we say Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchok, Elokei Yaakov. Chazal are always mikatzer. So why do we say that? We should say Elokei Avraham, Yitzchok, Yaakov. Nochamal Elokei, Elokei, okay. Beautiful. And the answer is Poshet, because the Nisyonis of Avraham Avinu were not the Nisyonis of Yitzchok. The Nisyonis of Yitzchok were not of Yaakov. Everyone had their own set of challenges. So the shaykhis, the relationship, while generically speaking is the same, but it's not. Avraham Avinu was called Yedid Hashem. Everyone had a different aspect of unique relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yaakov is Titein Emes LiYaakov. Emes. Yaakov is Midas Emes. We see that all his life he was struggling with Emes. Shmuz by itself, maybe one day we'll talk about it. Yehuda, Yehuda Sholach Lefon of Chazal said that Yehuda went first to Goshen to establish a yeshiva. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu send Yehuda? Because Yehuda really reflected the Meile of Yaakov Avinu of Emes. How do we know? Because the word Yehuda comes from two things. Apam oides Hashem, to thank Hashem, But Yehuda, Chazal say, Hoido veloy boish. Yehuda was a ish emes. When he was confronted with whatever he did wrong at the time with Tomo, he says, Tzot kol mimeni. That's the uniqueness of Hayid. He's moida al emes and he's mevakesh emes. So Yehuda became symbolically the one who continued the heritage of Yaakov Avinu. Of course, all the children did, but he was unique in that inyan of Hoidoeh. Emes moidim anachnu loch, we say moidim is thank you, moidim also we admit. In English, you say I appreciate, means I thank you, I appreciate. Because if you don't appreciate, the thanks is meaningless. If somebody calls you 3 o'clock in the morning, and you pick up the phone, you wake up from a deep sleep, and he says, oh, it's a wrong number. I say, oh, thank you. And you meant to thank him, say, you want to give a juicy klala, but but it's a matter of mannerism. It's not really thanking. Right? The Germans were always Dankeschön, Bitteschön, Chayes Roes. Real thanks means true appreciation. If you really appreciate, then you can thank. Al Kaporim, that's why we call Yehudi. In college, we used to tell the students of the famous episode that the guy asked the Jew, said, why are you Jews always answering questions with questions? The answer, why not? Right? So, Klal Yisrael is looking, is mevakesh always questions. We teach our children, say the night to ask questions. Fascinating thing, I don't know if we have time in this context of time, but there's a medical thing that it's a rule in mathematics, but there's a mispar godel and mispar kot. Mispar godel, right? Let's say you want to write 3,223. You don't write 3 and 3 zeros or 2 zeros, right? 3 zeros and 3,000 and 200, 2 and 0, 0. You write the basic number 3, 2, 2, 3. Everybody knows it means 3,200. That's a mispar. Mispar godel is the larger number. The mispar kot are the digits. Right? In Gematrias, there's a mispar godel and mispar kot. Regular number Aleph Beis is 1, 2, 3. You come to Chof, Yud is 10, but Chof is 20, right? And so on. But in Mispar Kotten, you don't write the zeros. Chof is 2, and Mem is 4, and so on. Comes Kuf is 100, so but you take out the zeros, it's 1. That's Beyadua, that's what's called Mispar Kotten. And I did it with students with names. Take any name, any gematria of any name, except names like David, which doesn't have a mispar godel, but a name that has mispar godel and mispar kotten. And you take the mispar kotten, you deduct it from the mispar godel. You always come at the end to one number, number 9. No matter what you do, spill it blind. It's an interesting thing in mathematics. So says the Bnei Yissoschol. So originally, so then I saw the Shloach Kodesh actually says this. He says, why is it? Why did Kodesh Baruch Hu make it? Kodesh Baruch Hu made everything. Why did he make it like this? He says because the mispar kotten of emes is 441, but emes aleph mem tov is 9. By the way, that doesn't say Shalom, but Shabbos is 9. Mispar kotten Odom is 9. Whenever it has to do with emes, it's number 9. So he says, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so much of HaKadosh Baruch Hu emes. So in the mathematics, he implanted emes. Yes, I said the Musar Haskell is that Mispar Godel represents Gaiva, arrogance. Mispar Kotten represents Anover. If you take the Gaiva, take a little bit off, you'll get to the emes. A little less Gaiva, you get to the emes. Al Kol Ponim, the Chelbechel Tigashinsky Gesher HaChaim points out, it says a pasuk, Doiver emes bilvover. And there's another passage called Doiver, it says, Doiver Shkorim Lo Yikol Neged Emes. It says, why is it that Emes is Loshen Yochid? Doiver, and by Sheker it says Doiver Shkorim. Doiver Emes. So he says, because Emes there's only one. Shkorim there are plenty. That's his. All right. I'll call upon him the Indian of a Jew, of Klalis, of Torah, is Shanosanon Torah's Emes. It says, Moshe Emes, Seirosoi Emes. That's the essence of Torah, what Torah is all about. Again, we don't have the luxury of time to go into the details. It's fascinating in Yonim and Vav. Let's go to point number 2, Zionists, Zionism. What is Zionism? So, personally, I feel cheated because my ancestors become yiches to the Vilna Gaon, Tzitzoyago. The Vilna Gaon wanted to come to Israel, twice he tried, didn't go. And so, by the way, the Baal Shem Tov. And both of them, Baal Shem Tov and the Vilna Gaon, gave a tzavoah to their Talmidim and the Mishpacha to come to Israel. It's going about 230 years ago. My mother was 8th generation Yerushalmi. Okay. But they came, you know what Eretz Yisrael was then at the time? It was mamish. When I was a kid, Eretz Yisrael was doing very, very poorly in most matters. I don't know ruchnis. But my Bobby's used to tell us, she lived in Me'asharim, I remember where she lived, I used to go visit her. Typical Me'asharim lady. She used to tell us that there were days in Yerushalayim where people went through the streets of Yerushalayim to look for grass to eat like animals. But the grass was already in short supply. Can you imagine? What Mesiras Nefesh those people had to come to Israel? Why? There was no army, there was nothing. It was just purely Ahavas Israel. So really, every Yid by definition is a Tziyoni. The reason why we don't use it today is because the label was stolen. That's all it is. The Talmidei Agrot Tzitzoyago came to Israel when it was a midbo mamish. They were Mesiras Nefesh for Israel. Then later on the bandwagon jumped the secular Zionism. And they took a ride. And they took over the momentum, which is true. They deserve credit for what the good they did. But ideologically, they push it, turned something holy and made it into mundane to secular to nationalism, which is very foreign to Klal Yisrael. Because Chazal say that the Torah was given to us in Har Sinai, not in Eretz Yisrael. Why wasn't it given in Zion Square in Yerushalayim on a nice day? Right? It was in Sinai. Not much left there either. Don't even know exactly the location. To teach us that what makes us a nation is Torah. Take away Torah, we have nothing. Eretz Yisrael is crucial. It's important. Eretz asher eini Hashem Elokecha bo mereish Yishana, for sure. But the energy, the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael comes from Torah, because the Rebbe Shalom said so. Not because we have an army and a banner and a whatever hymnon, what's it called in English? National anthem. Klal Yisrael always yearned to come to Israel. Rabbi Levi writes, he said in Kinnis, Rabbi Levi writes so beautifully. He says, I would rather walk barefoot and clothes on the ruins, afar Arzeich, the ruins of Eretz Yisrael, than living in the golden palaces of Spain. It was a beautiful poetic description of the strength, the desire to come to Eretz Yisrael. By the way, I don't like to be critical, but unfortunately, I meet a lot of American yeshiva bochum. One of the things I asked them, do you have a desire she'ifa to live in Eretz Yisrael? It's very disappointing. I said, I didn't ask you if you are going to live in Eretz Yisrael. You have a she'ifa that if you only can, if the Baba and Zaydi will be healthy and move along, whatever, all the excuses are out. What do you want? A few months ago, I had a mamish, something blew my mind. As one of the bochum, I said, listen, when I was a kid, I understand. I said, so it's difficult to live in. Today, Shefa, you can get here what you can't get in America sometimes. I said, you know, the guy says to me, he said, yeah, but life is more convenient. I said, yeah. I don't know. I love the Gashmis in Eretz Yisrael, I must admit. I love the Gashmis. Forget about the Ruchnis. The Gashmis! Eretz, Chevdo, Teiro, Chol, is Merik. You know what he answered me? He says, yeah, but there is no target.
There's no target?
Target.
We are the target.
The store target. I looked at him, I thought the guy lost his mind. I mamish looked at him like he needs a good psychiatrist. So there's no, you hear, it's a bizoyan. It's a bizoyan. Eretz Yisrael. I just, for the life of me, I can understand there's a good percentage of American Jews, from Jews, who never visited Eretz Yisrael. It's a bizoyan. Moshe Rabbeinu begged HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then one day, there's something happened to us because we are confusing Zionism with Judaism. There's something terribly wrong going on, and that really needs to be clarified. Every day we daven b'sechazena inim shum cholseim berachmi v'Yerushalayim yircho berachmi toshu imloch Hashem l'kayich Tzion l'dei v'dei aliyah Tzionim. We are the Tzionim, Rabbi said. People came and stole the label. No. Again, I don't like to be critical. I like to always be positive, but sometimes you have to remind yourself, to pinch yourself of the reality. The one that's considered the father of Zionism, modern Zionism, Theodor Herzl. Theodor Herzl was a victim. He was a victim. He was already a few generations assimilated then. Took him out face. It's around 50 years ago, whatever it was. He was a victim. Why? Why? How did he get involved? He was bothered by anti-Semitism, different versions of what really bothered him, the Dreyfus trials, whatever there was. But Rabbi said the first thing that he came up with, many people are not aware of it, but it's a mitzvah farsa. Theodor Herzl suggested the best thing for the Jews is to convert to Christianity. If you don't believe me, Google it. Mefurish, Wikipedia, Mefurish, black and white. Later on, he half apologized. He said, yeah, it was like a youthful thought. That was the Mikol. Not only that, Herzl does not have one Jewish descendants. Either committed suicide or they became Christians. Not one. I feel bad. The Amos is, again, it was a victim himself. He was assimilated in Germany with all the Maskilim and the reformers. It's lo human. If you read the history of Ben Gurion, yeah, don't do it after lunch. It's lo human. And then again, I don't want to focus on the negative part, but I think we must know why the G'dai Yisrael were vehemently opposed to the type of Zionism that Herzlian type Zionism. Let's analyze for a moment independence. What's the shot independence? Do you know that the Chol HaTorah Kulo, not in Torah Shebechsav, and not in Torah Sheba'al Peh, does the word Atzmaut appear? It's a new invented word. There's no place. In Achronim already, I think, as Muhammad, that in Torah, not Shebechsav, not Sheba'al Peh, it doesn't appear the word. I was wondering, why Takanat? Sounds very exciting. Atzmaut. Rabbi say, a Yid does not look to be independent. A Yid looks to be dependent on the Borei Olam, and he looks on B'nai Machaber to be dependent on one. He calls Yisrael Arevim. There's different scholars. One is Arevim Ze Bo Ze. We are involved with one another. Independence certainly in the secular sense is something which doesn't appeal to us. Ve'atem adveikim b'Hashem Elokeichem. Hallelujah, we're saying Hallel, even though the Yom Ha'atzmaut Hallel. Hallelujah, Allah Avdei Hashem. What's for Atzmaut? Maze Atzmaut? What is it? What kind of new concept introduced? It's introduced by the nationalists because Kechol HaGoyim, Beis Yisrael, we want to be like all the Goyim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ho Yo Lo Yisir, it says in Novi. In Novi, Ve'oy le'al ruchachem, Ho Yo Lo Yisir, Posuk in Yecheskel HaNovi, Asher atem oimrim niye kagoyim, Kemishpech Ois HaArotzos, L'shoros Eitz V'Ev, and want to be like all the Goyim. Ho Yo Lo Yisir, I'm not going to let it happen. Because a Yid, Klal Yisrael, is not a nation like other nations. We are a nation of Torah. So how do you look then at the beautiful things that are happening in Eretz Yisrael? I want to know one of the most fascinating things. I have a picture of it. On the Ponevezher Yeshiva, if you go today, with all the Kanoim in Bnei Brak, there is a flag of Medina Yisrael on top of Ponevezher. When Rav Shach was Rosh Yeshiva, when Cheskel Levenstein was Mashgiach, I have a picture. I took a picture. Leman Yedu V'Yiro. Why? People confuse. There's an Indian of Hakos HaToiv. I know if they'll throw tomatoes at me, but I want you to know that in my shul, every Shabbos, I make a Mishaberach for the Chayalim. Not the Tziyoni Nusach. On Mishaberach. Somebody, Sabriska Bocha was in my house, he says, Tziyoni? I says to him, are you a goy? וגם חרבוינו זוכו לטויב. No חרבוינו, our friend. 2,500 years, we keep thanking him every year. You know what? He didn't even intend to save us. He had no avam in it. The word he's doing will save us. וגם חרבוינו זוכו לטויב. You know, even more, it says in the Pasuk, לא יססאי ומצרי, כי גרו יסודות. Wait, Mitzri! They killed us! They destroyed us! They ran out to us in Yamsuf. Before she would say, yeah, but we had some good times there too. Yaakov Avinu came, Yosef was viceroy, Koish Yeshiva was last 80 years. We had something from them. Lo Yisrael Mitzri. No, don't get me. Don't shlishi, yovo lo mitarash. Torah is teaching us what is the Koras HaToy. And Bechlal, all this talk about Mavet LaAravim. I was once invited there in the shul to speak, and I come in the front. This is graffiti, Mavet LaAravim. You know why I changed my whole brochure? And boy, did I give it to them. I said, it says Mavet LaMechablim. I'm with you. I'll be the one who write it. Mavet LaMechablim. Mavet LaAravim. Rabbi said, all of us do not say Hallel Shalom on Shvish Kel Pesach, and therefore, not Chol HaMoed. You know why? The Gemara brings a few reasons, but the Mishabura chooses one. Mishabura says, because Maise Yodai Toivim Bayam, Batam Mishilo, wait a minute. Maise Yodai, who are the Maise Yodai? Who are the Maise Yodai? Terrorists! The Maise Yodai, we're talking about terrorists. Those are the Egyptians that saw 10 Makkahs. That's the main Makkahs. Chazal say many more, as we're saying the Agoda. And then Paro Pijama Be'emtza Laila. Do me a favor, get out of here. Kulon Mason. Within my teve. Otherwise, they would all be dead. And then those idiots pursue us to Yam Suf. And in Yam Suf, they say, wow, the sea is splitting. What? You freak out, you run away. Besoich hayom, by Abosho, by Yidden from Mitzrayim. No, terrorists are not. Your name of first-class terrorists. On them, because of them, we don't say Hallel Sholem, because the Simcha is not complete. And here I want to get to another very important point, understanding in regards to Yom Ha'atzmaut. Are we thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all the goodness that He bestowed upon us after the Holocaust? Of course. Of course, if we make it to Charvoino, if we make it to Mitzri, the Shaila, of course. What's the dispute about? The dispute is not about appreciation. That's a mistake. It's pushed terribly wrong impression that they putting into the minds, brainwashing, that we are not thankful. Punkt verkehrt, exactly the opposite. Rabbi say a very strange pasuk in Megillas Esther. It says that Klal Yisrael killed 75,000 goyim that came to kill us. Beyoim shloisha osor lechodesh ador. Venoyach be'arbo osor boy. Ve'osoi oisoi yoy mishter v'simcho. What's the old Rosh? Huh? Purim is on 14th? No. The Ness of Purim did not happen the 14th day of Adar. It happened on the 13th day. But Klal Yisrael doesn't celebrate wars or the victory at war either. That's not what we celebrate. Venoya. And then there's another posik, Legabe Shushan Purim, right? The Chamesh Vesish, Vesases V'Yomam, and then it says, Venoya, Bahamisho, so boy, Vosoy, Oisoy, Yoy, Chazal wanted to drill it into us. We do not make a party or a simcha in the day there was so many tzoros. And Ochaname, we won, we killed the enemies, but we don't say, Chanukah. When will this Chanukah happen? You ask the child, Chofei Kislev. Lo nachon. It's not true. Chanukah is Chonu Chofei. The war ended the 24th day, but we don't celebrate that day. We celebrate the day after. By the way, my Musga, people ask the question, why is it that there's no Suda Chanukah? There's no Suda. I mean, you know, latkes and all this, it's all very nice, but it's not a mitzvah, it's not a Efshir Amenegle, to shit the skama. Depends how much oil you have. But the, you know, if you do it in microwave, you don't know oil, the oil of latkes, Yeshem, Al Kolponim, why don't we have, right? So the brought down, some say because the Purim was a danger of a physical danger, Hanukkah was spiritual danger, but L'chura is a very shver teretz because the Maisa, we celebrate all the time spiritual things. Asiyum is not a spiritual thing. Don't make a suda. I know Tzorich, but I said it's never portioned. Because the first time in history, the Jews officially in a war had to kill Jews. The Misyavnim, they were with the Evonim, we were forced to have a civil war. Jews do not sit down to eat a meal when they killed even Jews that were Shoim. Because Ayid, Israel, Afabishachoto Israel, or the Bishom is Marshalledi, Chonu Chofei. Chonu Chofei! That's what we celebrate. 8 days we celebrate. So I saw, somebody said, what do you mean? Hanukkah, later on, it was secular, there was a lot of tzedukah and Beis, all kind of tzoros, and we celebrate, and we don't celebrate. So what? So the government is goes with Mansour Abbas. So what? So Mamish lo yuman, the shallowness of the shaila. Klal Yisrael never made a Yom Tov, other than on spiritual achievements. In Mitzrayim, we went out of Teshar Tumah. On Shavuos, we came to our Sinai and we covered the Torah. On Sukkot, as the Gro explains, the Anani covered started again after Chet HaEgel. Every time, Hanukkah, we didn't celebrate the war. We didn't have, bombers flying overhead. We did never, but we celebrate the Neis Pach HaShemen, the Pach Tohor, the Ruch Nir Sheboy. By the way, we also thank, yeah, but that's not the focus. The focus is the Hanukkah, Lehoidu Yisrael. When Klal Yisrael came out after Golus Bavel, came to Israel, they established Malchus Yisrael again. Where's the Yom Ha'atzmaut? You know why not? Because reading the Novi, many of them were intermarried. Ezra and Nehemiah were like thinking of all kinds of ways how to deal with the intermarriage problem. Only 7 years. Not shaykh to make a simcha. When is Yom Ha'atzmaut declared? By the way, I want to tell something about me very much. A few days ago, we had Yom HaShoah. Now, the Rabbonim, the Gdei Torah, did not want to make Yom HaShoah when they made it. They wanted to do it on Shivos B'Tammuz. But the Zionist movement overpowered them, and they decided, okay, Shoah is my mother-in-law, father-in-law lost his entire family. My mother was in Bergen-Belsen. I know what the Shoah is, but there's Sfira. You have to stand when it's the Charetz. Did you notice that the Sfira for Yom HaShoah is 1 minute, and the Sfira yesterday Chalei Tzar is 2 minutes. Twice. Right. What's the 6 million Jews perished. Don't you think at least they should match the 6,000 Yidden that were killed in Milchemet Ha'atzmaut? But the message, Rabbi say, it's subtle. The message is that with the Shoah, the Zionism are embarrassed. Katzoin Latevach Yuvol, as if we had a choice. Mit Yoitze Zayin. What business is that? What kind of business is that? I'm not speaking about the right, but the attitude. It's not a volume. Another point. When is Yom Ha'atzmaut? Yom Ha'atzmaut is the day that used to be called Dov Chagrin. He changed it to David Ben Gurion. So his name was Dov Chagrin. That's what he used to call him in Cheder, in Europe. He declared, Rabbi said, I have a quotation from the day that he declared the state, that's when the Arabs started killing Jews. That's when you celebrate. If you want Yom Ha'atzmaut, l'shitos, so fine. Good. Avada, they should be thanking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avada. But to make it in the day that triggered, make it in 1949, I think they signed finally the ceasefire Make it that day. V'nochu moivayim. No, efshel. The shitosro. So in other words, you're declaring Ben Gurion's declaration. That's dead wrong, Rabbi Isai. And the misunderstanding is if Rome Jews don't appreciate the Nissim, fakert, alisecho, v'alisecho, v'chol eis, erev, v'kitzor, say 3 times a day. We're not thankful. You talk to Doyle Israel, they're very serious attitude. I want to know, by the way, I tell you, my parents left Eretz Yisrael when I was 16. I stayed another year. I left just before army service. Beheter. And then they gave me a lot of tzoros. You have to come back, back and forth. Later on, they had an agreement with the army that I can come to Eretz Yisrael, but then to go to L'shkar Giyus to get the every time. I was in the Gulf War. My brother-in-law had my address in Yerushalayim. That was my legal mailing address in Israel. He says soldiers came knocking on his door. They were looking for Jacobowitz. Where's Jacobowitz? Tzav Giyus. I was 40, I think at the time I had 7 children. Tzav Giyus. I told my wife, listen, what can we do? Tzav Giyus. They need Jacobowitz. I don't know how to hold a gun upside down, but they need me in the Gulf War because I'm going to stop the missiles. So the kids are, okay, I told my wife I'm going. Okay, I had enough. By the way, when I kept Israel a few times, they wanted to draft me. I told them, I'm here to be drafted, take me. And lanu kvutza. Those are what should I do? Tavo b'December. No. Unbelievable. Anyway, Al Koponim, I am a very loyal citizen. I heard that they need me. Klal Yisrael needs me. Okay, maybe to wash dishes. I don't know. The kids are. So I packed my bags, and my children started to cry. That was going on, and my wife was not happy. So we decided what the Jew does when he's an ice. You got to ask Adam Godel. I told my brother-in-law, do me a favor. Go over to Rav Shach and ask him. Ask Rav Shach. What should I do? Tell him the whole story, the whole. So he did. Send the shal to Rav Shach. And Rav Shach responded in Yiddish, was they darf von them? The army says that they need him. Avade soll kommen. Of course, he should come. It's a sakona. Whatever, wash dishes, whatever you do. Rav Shach told me, Rabbi, I'm telling you, not secondhand, told me when I was 40-some years old, he tells me to go to join, because Klal Yisrael sakona, what says? Do you know that somebody once came to Rav Shach and he couldn't get in because Rav Shach was crying with more sholish. He couldn't contain himself. So finally he asked the Gabbai, the fellow, what's that? He says, Rav Shach just heard that there was an Israeli helicopter that crashed and 10 Chayalim got killed. 6 Chayalim got killed. When the Rav Shach heard this, he pushed it, he broke down and he was crying. He never saw them, they were not religious, they were Yidden. Instead with Adam Godel, how much we appreciate it. It's like a chutzpah, by the way, for people who go and mit chayalim, whether it's mit Shemesh or Meshah, whatever it is, and spit at them and ridicule them. Are you out of your mind? I tell them, if Chas would be a terrorist attack, Chas v'sholem, who they called? The same chayalim that they spit on yesterday. So ha chutzpah, where's a koras atoy? That's a koras atoy. That's L'Sisai Mitzri, that's V'gam Charvoino. Where are you? To join the philosophy or to agree with them, you're allowed to argue and you're allowed to scream, allowed to become a chore. It's a free country. But a koras atoy, to say the nusach of that is established by the Zionism who admire, I mean, I push on something today especially, today where the government is, a good chunk of it relies on people who are at least terrorist supporters. You say, Tfilah l'Shalom HaMedina. Tfilah l'Shalom HaMedina. What's the Tfilah? The Bush will give you a tzeo v'soreo Mansur Abbas should be Matzliach. That's what you're down for. What's with you? If I say, make a tefillah, make something which is appropriate. Avade. He said, you have to have a cause at all. But what does it have to do with krumkeit, with such distorted ideas? Where does it come from? I teach nowadays in the Israeli army. Yeah. Give chesed to chayalim. I want to tell you a medical message. Before Shlomo Wolbe was nifter, I had this chus, I never met him before, I had this chus to spend a half an hour private quality time with Shlomo. We spoke about things. Then I don't want to go into a whole story. Every 10 minutes he stopped and he said to me, "You weiß, von was Mashiach kommt nicht? You know when Mashiach is coming." If I weiß, how could the multi-millionaire? Yeah, ich weiß it. Ich will auch sagen. That's what he said, because we don't do kiruv v'chokim, we don't care about other Jews enough. That's what he told me. He told me, Volter given, if I would be 20 years younger, I would close all my shiurim. I'll go knocking on the doors of Israelis, secular Israelis, say, "Seid zurückkommen zum Taten." That's what he told me. But then after our half an hour meeting, he gets up and he goes, he reaches a sefer. It's called Olam HaYedidus. Ben Sheshes Loso, there's 3 names, Ola Shover. He says to me, "Ihr weißt, you can them sefer? Do you realize who?" I know that he wrote Ali Shur. And he says, "Ich hab das geschrieben. I wrote this sefer." Okay. Do you know what it says in the sefer? No. He says, "All my droshes that I gave," that's why I call the sefer Ben Sheshes Loso. Sheshes is Milchemes Sheshes Hayomim. Also is Milchemes Yom Kippurim. All my droshes that I gave in the Israeli army for Chayalim. What's one have to do with the other? You can disagree with the philosophy. You know, people ask me all the time, so what? I always tell them, you know what? The Israeli government is extremely important. We have to be loyal to it because we're in one boat. I said, you have to relate to it. It's a big vada bite, you know, every bite meshutaf. Somebody has to take out the garbage. Somebody has to make sure that it's secure and safe. Because Ben-Gurion declared, no, this is Baruch Hashem, the version was Bezakas. We have a vada bite, which functions for the most part at least. And Baruch Hashem, we're thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Kedusha, the Ben-Gurion declared in the day that they started killing Jews, that there is a Medina, that's what you celebrate? No. Gedolei Yisrael Paskin. Who are we? The Gedolei Yisrael Paskin? No. You have to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu every day. But to make a day which is devoted to the declaration of someone who was, I want to say, used to refer to the Sephardic Jews as human dust, just to give you an example of what kind of a person. So we, all the Frum Yidden, should dance after his declaration, which started a terrible war, which could be was necessary. I'm not criticizing. But if you want to celebrate, Baruch Hashem, Nochum Oivem, after the thing, but they didn't ask Rabbanim, who passed in the Zayom Tev, Ben-Gurion passed in the Zayom Tev. They said, one said that Yom HaTzon will never be a Yom Tev until Frum Yidden go to the mikveh and it shan't. It's a Bachal Batola, it's never going to be a real Yom Tev. It was right. Yeah. Al-Koponim, it's zwei dinim, two separate things. We appreciate every soldier, everyone who does help Yidden, help the country. We're one in one boat. But what does it have to do with the type of Zionism of Theodor Herzl's Zionism? What does it have to do with it? Chas v'shalom, we shouldn't get trapped talking a lack of a course of Torah. Every time you make roads, you see it's being built, you should correct to anyone, religious, not religious, who gives a hand to the building of Eretz Yisrael. So of course, you see a soldier, kiss his hand. I give shiurim in the training camps. Rabbi said, would those guys go through to become a soldier? It's no the Moshe nefesh for us. To have a chutzpah not to be makir toiv. What does one have to do with the other? The philosophy, treif. Remember in Michigan, college once, he says, Rabbi, what do you think about Reform Jews? I said, we love them. I love them. You love them. So why don't you join them? I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You love your child, but if he commits a crime, you don't join him. I said, we hate the philosophy of Reform Jews. The philosophy is chazer treif, but the Jews are victims. We love them, we hug them, we would love to help them out in any way we could. Israel, what does one have to do with the other? The philosophy is treif, but the people, Mosek Medrash, 95% of my students were Reform Jews. Well, what's the shaila? I told them, I'm moiser nefesh for who? For non-Reform kids. Why? Because I hate them. Because I care for them. That's all. Go find another job. Rabbi say, Ashreinu matar chalkeinu. We have to really try to create unity and understanding, but understanding doesn't mean giving up on your philosophy. Understanding means to be understand. They come from Chazon Ish already 70 years ago, more than 70 years ago, passing that most non-religious Jews today are tinoikesh and ishbo. You have to be makar of them. You have to see to make them feel choshev, because they are every yid, every yid is more beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than all the Malachei HaShoros. Imagine all the Malachei HaShoros. One kosher yid, he says, is more beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than Kol Malachei HaShoros. Rabbi say, enjoy the day in the proper day, and please thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu every day for the schus to live in this beautiful land with beautiful neshamas, beautiful yidden. Ashreinu matar chalkeinu. Amen.